In 1967, an American race car driver walked into the most exclusive club in motorsport, Formula One, with a car he built himself in a workshop in Southern California. Every team on the grid, Ferrari, Lotus, Brabham, BRM, had decades of European engineering heritage behind them. He had a small crew, a homemade V12 engine, and a dream that the entire paddock thought was clinically insane. His name was Dan Gurney, and this is the Eagle T1G. Number 10. The team was co-founded by the man who built the Cobra. Dan Gurney did not do this alone. His partner in launching All-American Races in 1965 was Carroll Shelby, the same Carroll Shelby who shoved a Ford 5.8 into a lightweight British sports car and created the AC Cobra. Goodyear backed the operation because they wanted an American car running on American tires at Indianapolis and in Formula One. The team set up shop in Santa Ana, California, and ordinary Americans actually mailed in $1, $5, and $10 checks to support the effort. It was as grassroots as a Formula One team has ever been. Number 9. The car was penned by the designer of the Indy-winning Lotus. Gurney hired Len Terry, the British engineer who had just designed the Lotus 38 that Jim Clark drove to victory at the 1965 Indianapolis 500. Terry created a car with symmetrical suspension so it could handle both the oval at Indianapolis and the road courses of Europe. The same basic chassis would race at Spa and at the Brickyard. Number 8. The engine was built using machine tools left over from the First World War. The Gurney Westlake V12 was designed by Aubrey Woods and manufactured by Harry Westlake's engineering firm in Sussex, England. The problem was that Westlake built the engine using surplus machine tools dating from 1914 to 1918. The tolerances were terrible, parts were barely interchangeable. And yet, even in its earliest development phase, that engine produced 360 brake horsepower. By the end of the 1967 season, it was putting out over 400 brake horsepower. Number 7. One of the chassis was built from fighter jet materials. While most Formula One cars of the era used standard aluminum construction, Gurney had one Eagle chassis fabricated from magnesium and titanium. These were exotic alloys, materials that belonged on military aircraft and not on racing cars. The result was one of the lightest and most advanced Grand Prix cars anyone had ever seen, years ahead of its time in material science. Number 6. The car was built around the driver because no other Formula One car fit him. Dan Gurney stood nearly 6 feet 4 inches tall, which was a serious problem in the 1960s. Formula One cars were designed for smaller drivers, and Gurney had spent years folding himself into cockpits that were never built for someone his size. When he designed the Eagle, he finally built a car around his own frame. It was one of the few Grand Prix cars that actually fit the man driving it. Number 5. The Eagle qualified on the front row at all 11 races in 1967 and only finished 2 of them. This is the stat that tells you everything about the Eagle T1G. Gurney and his teammate put the car in the top 3 on the grid at every single Grand Prix that season. 11 out of 11. The car was blisteringly fast. It had one of the most distinctive engine notes on the grid, a screaming V12 that turned heads every time it fired up. It was also catastrophically unreliable. Of the 11 championship races, the Eagle only made it to the checkered flag twice. Both times it finished on the podium. Speed was never the problem. Survival was. Number 4. The Belgian Grand Prix victory was the first American constructor win in 46 years. On June 18, 1967, Gurney lined up on the front row at Spa alongside Jim Clark and Graham Hill. He botched the start and dropped down the field. His engine developed a misfire and he had to pit with low fuel pressure. He was 15 seconds behind Jackie Stewart with half the race gone. Then Stewart's gearbox started failing, forcing him to drive one-handed while holding the gear lever in place with the other. Gurney set a new lap record, caught him, passed him, and won by over a minute. The Eagle was clocked at 196 miles per hour on the back straight. No American constructor had won a Formula One Grand Prix since Jimmy Murphy's Duesenberg took the 1921 French Grand Prix. Gurney ended that drought single-handedly. And here is the detail that makes it even more remarkable. It was the third time Gurney had delivered a constructor's first ever Grand Prix victory. He won Porsche's only Formula One win in 1962 and Brabham's first win in 1964. Then he did it for his own team. No other driver in history has that record. Quick thing before we get to the top 3 on this list. The data on this channel shows that over 80% of you watching right now are not subscribed. That means you are showing up for the content, but the algorithm has no reason to show you the next video. If you have made it this far, you clearly care about the stories behind the greatest racing machines ever built. Hit subscribe so you do not miss the next one. Number 3, he had the German Grand Prix won and lost it 2 laps from the end. Later that same season at the Nurburgring, Gurney was leading by 42 seconds with 2 laps remaining. 42 seconds. In Formula One, that is not a lead. That is a different race. Then the drive shaft snapped. The Eagle rolled to a stop on one of the most dangerous circuits in the world, and Gurney climbed out knowing he would never get another chance like that. He had proven the car could beat anyone. It just could not survive long enough to do it twice. That failure at the Nurburgring is still one of the most heartbreaking retirements in the history of the sport. Number 2. Dan Gurney invented the champagne spray, and he did it 1 week before his greatest victory. On June 11th, 1967, exactly 1 week before Spa, Gurney and A.J. Foyt won the 24 Hours of Le Mans in a Ford GT40 Mark IV. On the podium, with Henry Ford II standing right next to him, Gurney grabbed a bottle of champagne, shook it, and sprayed it over everyone in range. Foyt reportedly looked at him and said, "That is the boss you are spraying." Gurney did not care. He had just won the biggest endurance race in the world as part of the only all-American driver pairing to ever win Le Mans. That spontaneous moment became the most iconic celebration in all of motorsport. Every podium spray since, in Formula One, in MotoGP, in IndyCar, traces directly back to that afternoon in France. Number 1. After he retired from driving, Gurney invented a piece of technology that is still on every race car and most military helicopters on Earth. In 1971, Gurney's driver Bobby Unser was testing a new Eagle at Phoenix, and the car was too slow. With nothing left to lose, Gurney bent a small strip of aluminium into a right angle and bolted it to the trailing edge of the rear wing. It took 45 minutes to fabricate. When Unser came back in, he quietly told Gurney it was the single biggest improvement he had ever felt in a race car. Gurney told every other team who asked that the strip was just there to prevent hand injuries when pushing the car. Some teams copied it and mounted it on the wrong side of the wing, making their cars slower. For years, nobody understood what it actually did. Today, it is called the Gurney flap. It is used on every Formula One car, every Indy car, most NASCAR stock cars, Apache attack helicopters, commercial aircraft, and wind turbines. A 45-minute invention from a retired race car driver in California became one of the most important aerodynamic devices in engineering history. Dan Gurney built his own car, beat the best teams in the world, invented the champagne spray, and created a piece of technology that outlived every car he ever raced. The Eagle T1G only won 1 Grand Prix, but the man who made it changed motorsport forever. If you want to see the full story behind another car that should have conquered the world and almost did, subscribe for more. I will see you in the next one.